Before we can start this video properly, I want to take you back in time. I want you to imagine it with me. September 1st, 1859, Washington, D.C. A telegraph operator sits alone at his station. The building is quiet, calm, peaceful even. But outside, something is happening. There is something wrong with the sky. It's burning deep red and orange colors, pulsing like fire across the whole horizon. People in the streets below are staring upward, and some of them genuinely convinced that the city is on fire. He turns back towards his equipment, and to his surprise, the machine starts sparking. The telegraph is sparking violently, without him ever touching it. The keys are burning hot every time he reaches for them, so he does the only thing he can think of. He reaches for the battery connections to disconnect them from the power, but then something happens that has no explanation. The messages just keep coming in. There is no battery to be had, no power source whatsoever. The connection has been severed, and yet the machine is running. But it's running thanks to the sky. You see, across the whole country, telegraph offices are catching fire, and there are some of them even being thrown from their chairs as electrical shocks surge through the wires. People in Cuba and Panama are watching the Northern Lights. In 1859, this was terrifying, but completely survivable. The most advanced technology on Earth at the time was wire and a brass key. Today, your phone, your car, the hospital keeping someone alive 3 miles from where you're sitting right now, the satellites guiding every aircraft in the sky, the infrastructure delivering clean water to your tap, and even you listening to me right now. All of it runs on systems that didn't exist in 1859. On July 23rd, 2012, a solar storm the size of the Carrington Event missed the Earth by just 9 days. Now, we're going to talk about what happens when it doesn't miss. To understand what we're dealing with, you have to understand what the sun is actually capable of. The sun isn't just a light source in the sky for us. It's a violent, churning electromagnetic engine, and periodically it does explode, but not the way you're thinking. Coronal mass ejections, or CMEs, are powerful eruptions near the sun's surface, driven by kinks in the solar magnetic field. They blast out huge clouds of electrified gas and subatomic particles that hurtle through space. Most of the time, these do miss us, or they arrive in a weakened state. Or our magnetic field absorbs enough of the blow that we get a light show, the Northern Lights, and nothing more serious than some radio static. But sometimes, in rare events, the sun sends something directly at us, full speed, and the 1859 event was the largest geomagnetic storm in recorded history. The flare had the energy of 10 billion atomic bombs. We know that sounds scary, and yes, you heard that correctly, the largest ever recorded event in history. And here's what made it especially dangerous. The CME traveled directly towards Earth, taking only 17.6 hours to make the journey from the sun to us. Typical CMEs take several days. It's believed that a prior CME has already cleared the path through that space, allowing this one to travel nearly unimpeded directly into our magnetic field. There was no warning, no time to prepare. One moment the sky was normal, and then, well, it wasn't. Telegraph operators were seeing sparks flying out of their equipment, and telegraph stations caught literal fire. 2 operators disconnected the batteries from their equipment and found they could still send signals with no electricity hooked up. That was the power of the Carrington Event. The storm was so powerful it was literally running the telegraph lines on its own energy. In 1859, the most complex technology on Earth was these telegraph lines. They were simple copper wire, and even that was overwhelmed enough to be set on fire and completely destroyed. Now ask yourself, what happens to a world where everything, every single thing around you, runs on electricity? Here's the part of the story that should have made the front page news and somehow didn't. On July 23rd, 2012, the sun fired a CME that scientists have assessed as being comparable in size and intensity to the Carrington Event. It traveled through the exact region of space that the Earth passed through in its orbit. On July 23rd of 2012, a Carrington-class solar flare was observed, but its trajectory narrowly missed Earth by a margin of roughly 9 days. 9 days earlier in Earth's orbit, and it would have hit us directly on. Think about that for a moment. In the entire span of your life, that single near miss ended up happening. A Carrington-level event crossed Earth's orbital path, and we survived it purely because of where we happened to be in our orbit at that precise moment in July. Nobody shut down the grid, and nobody ended up evacuating. Nobody even really talked about it outside of the scientific circles and a few articles that you came across online. And yet researchers who studied it were shaken because the 2012 CME wasn't just Carrington size. Some estimates suggest it may have been even stronger. We got lucky once. The question scientists have been asking ever since is, how long does that luck hold? Carrington-level storms are considered extremely rare, with estimates suggesting they only occur once every 500 years. But because detailed space weather records only go back a few decades, those estimates are based on limited historical evidence. The Carrington event took place just a few months before the solar maximum of 1860, the peak of the sun's 11-year activity cycle. That's when the sun is most volatile, most unpredictable, most capable of producing exactly this kind of event. We are not living in a quiet solar period. Now that we understand it a little bit more, let's actually talk about what happens when it actually hits us. The good news, and it's really the only good news in this story, is that we'd have a pretty good warning. There are currently satellites in operation that can provide warnings of incoming CMEs on a timescale of hours to even days. The bad news is that the magnetic field strength and orientation of an incoming storm, the key ingredients in knowing exactly how bad it will be, can only be measured with a lead time of about 15 to 30 minutes. So you might know something is coming, but you won't know how bad until 15 to 30 minutes before. That's not very much time. For context, the federal government's own protocols for protecting the power grid require utilities to take transformers and high-voltage systems offline before a major solar storm hits. That process can take hours, not minutes. So when the storm arrives, the grid is still up. Here is the single most important thing to understand about a Carrington-level event hitting the modern world. The threat isn't the storm itself. It isn't the radiation, and it isn't rain of fire coming from the sky. Solar storms aren't physically dangerous to humans on Earth because our magnetic field and atmosphere block most of the harmful radiation. The real risk is to our technology and what that means for us. What kills us isn't the sun. It's what the sun does to our machines. Geomagnetic storms introduce powerful currents in long conductors on the Earth's surface. These additional currents can overload the electrical grid to trigger voltage collapse or worse, permanently damage a significant number of expensive extra high voltage transformers. The transformers, that's the critical word, because here's the thing about transformers. The massive custom-built components that form the backbone of the power grid that almost nobody knows. A single high-voltage transformer weighs between 100 and 400 tons. They cost upwards of $10 million and take about 12 to 18 months to manufacture on demand. There is no leftover stock available. There is no warehouse full of spare transformers. They are custom-built as needed, one at a time by a small number of manufacturers, most of them being overseas. The storm hits and the currents surge through the grid. Those transformers don't trip a breaker and shut down. They overheat if they're not turned off before. They melt from the inside out, and when they're gone for over a year minimum. The estimated total U.S. population at risk of an extended power outage from a Carrington-level storm is anywhere from 20 to 40 million people, with durations of 16 days going all the way up to 2 full years. When the power grid does go down, not just in your neighborhood and not just in your city, but across the entire region simultaneously, what follows isn't just a blackout, it's a cascade effect. Every system that depends on the electricity begins to fall apart. In the modern world, everything depends on this electricity. These satellites go first because they're out farthest from the surface of our planet. Radiation can disable satellite electronics while the energized upper atmosphere increases drag, pulling satellites out of orbit. This would eliminate GPS for navigation and timing, critical for transportation, logistics, and cellular networks. The GPS system that guides everyday commercial flight and every shipping container, every hospital delivery truck, every emergency vehicle, all gone. The Halloween storm of 2003, a storm far weaker than the Carrington Event, prevented the FAA from providing GPS navigational guidance for roughly 30 full hours. A full Carrington Event hit doesn't just mean 30 hours. It means months of degraded or absent navigational satellites. Every transoceanic flight is grounded. Imagine every flight around the world being canceled at the same time. Not just delayed, but fully canceled. The planes that are in the air over the ocean when the storm hits, navigating by instruments, are no longer functioning. They face a crisis with no precedent. On the ground, the financial system stops. Major disruptions to financial markets, banking, telecommunications, and business transactions cascade outward within hours. ATMs no longer work. Credit card processors go offline. The global banking network that processes trillions of dollars a day, dark. And then comes the part that turns a technology crisis into a human one. If pumping operations needed to be suspended, that would affect water and fuel supplies, sewer systems, and flood defenses. Water treatment plants run on electricity. The pumps that move clean water through the city pipes run on electricity. The pumps that move sewage away from the same cities run on that electricity. Without power, within days, the water coming out of your tap becomes unreliable. Within a week, it's in the hardest hit regions, it stops altogether. And the hospitals, well, backup generators kick in almost immediately. But those generators run on fuel and the fuel supply chain, the trucks that deliver diesel to hospitals, the refineries that produce it, the logistic network that coordinates all of it, runs on GPS, on computers, on the very grid that just went down. The most immediate medical crisis involves insulin, which must be refrigerated and degrades after about a month at room temperature. The same spoilage affects vaccines and hospital blood banks, halting transfusions and routine immunizations. Without power, diagnostic imagery, laboratory services, and sterile operating rooms become unavailable. Healthcare would revert to a pre-industrial standard for a population reliant on advanced chronic care. Think about everything you know on medicine that requires refrigeration, on medical equipment that requires power. In a hospital right now depends on machines that run on electricity, all of it running on generator fuel with a clock ticking down. A 2013 study from Lloyd's of London estimated that the electrical outage from a Carrington-level event might lead up to $2.6 trillion in lost revenue for the North American power industry alone, with global blackout potential lasting years because such an event could simultaneously damage multiple extra high-voltage transformers that are difficult to replace. Not because the storm lasts that long. The storm itself passes in a few days. But the damage it leaves behind, the melted transformers, the fried grid infrastructure, the destroyed satellites, that damage doesn't just repair itself or go away. The large transformer repairs and replacements occur on a timescale of weeks to months and could result in a long-term widespread blackout. And while all of that is being slowly, painstakingly rebuilt, society is trying to function without it. The absence of fundamental services could lead to a major and widespread social unrest, riots, and theft, and that's not a prediction from a doomsday blog either. That's a direct quote from the Lloyd's of London's official risk assessment. Food supply chains break down. Research on the agricultural impacts of a major geomagnetic storm, estimates it could reduce crop yields by 38 to 48% globally, with losses up to 75% in some regions, due to the disruption of industrial production of fertilizer and pesticides. The storm doesn't destroy the crops, but the systems that grow them, the manufacturing plants producing fertilizer, and the logistics networks delivering it, the fuel supply keeping farm equipment running, those systems are all gone, and they don't know when they'll be back. In 1859, the Carrington Event burned down telegraph offices. People got shocks from their doorknobs, compasses stopped working, and by the following day, the world moved on, because in 1859, the world could. The infrastructure of modern civilization was not built with this in mind. The power grid was not designed to survive a Carrington-level event. The transformer supply chain has no emergency reserve. The satellites have no hardened backups for a solar storm. The hospitals have generators that run for days, not months. We know all of this. The USGS knows it. NOAA knows it. The Lloyds of London calculated the price tag and even published it. And on July 23rd of 2012, it almost didn't matter what we knew or didn't know, because a storm the size of one that burnt the telegraph offices in 1859 crossed our orbital path. We were 9 days away from finding out exactly how fragile all of that really is. The question was never, could the sun do this? It already did. The question is whether we'll be looking the right way when it decides to do it again. Now, before I end this, I want to leave with a bit of a disclaimer. For anyone who's still concerned about this event, this video is not intended to scare you into uncertainty. We here at Support Theory just happen to love the science behind things. A Carrington-level event is very rare and very unlikely to happen anytime soon. Our governments and science facilities, like all of the sources you can read in the description below, are well aware of all of these things. They have processes in place and they learn more every single day. So with all of that, guys, I hope you enjoyed, and until next time, stay happy and stay safe.